This is an unrehearsed program. The views expressed are those of the guests and not necessarily those of the producer. Today's topic:
The Future of Iraq War in Passion for Truth award-winning program.
Welcome to another edition of Passion for Truth. With American death toll increasing every day, you wonder whether the war in Iraq is going as advertised. Is it a flawed policy wrapped in illusion? And has the war in Iraq become a primary recruitment vehicle for terrorists? All next with our panelists, Dr. Joseph Annunziata with expertise on international affairs. As a former professor, Dr. Annunziata was an advisor to the Assistant Secretary of Defense on international issues. He was also a senior staff member at the White House. Frederick Peterson, Senior Fellow for Counterterrorism and Defense, U.S. Freedom Foundation. Dr. Keith Redrick from Christian Solidarity International. Ambassador Dean, Retired Ambassador Jonathan Dean, Advisor on International Security Issues, affiliated with the Union of Concerned Scientists. Hali Jalani, political analyst, also chair of the Asian Task Force of the United Nations Association National Capital Area. As an American citizen, she has been visiting Iraq extensively since the war.
Working in Iraq for 3.5 years.
Dr. Gregory Staunton, President, Genocide Watch, also professor at the Mary Washington University. Welcome you all. Starting with you, Joe, Vietnam has been on the minds of the old army generals and other statesmen. What's your thought?
I think there is a legitimate parallel between the actions that the United States took during the Vietnam War and the actions that it took here, in this sense that it was precipitous, it was based upon incorrect information, and it was based upon an illusion that we are bringing democracy to the world. We are saving the world, in case of Vietnam, saving it from communism, and in this case, we're saving the world from tyranny of a dictator. And I think we were mistaken then, we are mistaken now, and it's going to result in a very similar embarrassment to the United States.
Fred, according to Henry Kissinger, the overriding lesson of Vietnam is to stick it out. Do you agree with this premise?
Well, those words from Dr. Kissinger were applied to Vietnam and the conditions in Vietnam and that policy. Whether you can superimpose that time and that those issues over the present are highly questionable. I think that sustenance of will over time is always important in any successful policy, and no one ever thought, I don't think anyone went into any war without thinking that there would be difficult times. There are difficult times here. We have to measure whether the end is worth the means and the investment. I happen to think that it most certainly is.
Where do you come on, Keith?
Very good. Well, I think I probably would take issue with Dr. Kissinger about what the overriding lesson of Vietnam was, and I think one of the important lessons that we need to be cognizant of is the fact that part of our disappointment in Vietnam was that it was a war which was conducted in the political realm as much as it was in the military realm. And what I'm afraid of is that in Iraq we're heading down that same road. And unfortunately, it's not just our politicians who are actually setting the strategy and sometimes the tactics, but it's also the government in Iraq, which may not have our best interests in mind. It may converge at some times, but I think it's an autonomous government we created, and I think if our military officers are having to try to follow rules from Washington and Baghdad and a Shiite government, it's going to be a very difficult road to hoe in the future.
Mr. Dean, Kissinger is making all kinds of predictions, and one of his things is that we had won the war, we would have won the war in '72 had we stuck it out because we didn't have enough support from the Congress and the public, are we rehashing the old scenario here and giving an incentive to the people to support the war in Iraq when so many Americans are dying every single day?
Well, it's a sad affair. I don't think Dr. Kissinger was right. We have to, historically, the American public opinion and its majority and the Congress both decided that we were not winning in Vietnam and it was not worth pursuing the struggle with the casualties involved. We're moving steadily downhill in Iraq with no improvement in sight, a large number of fatalities, and the one similarity with Vietnam is, of course, that the government, the local government, the Iraqi government, is ineffective, regardless of what its intentions may be. So I think the indication is that some radical change of some kind should be made in policy.
Holly, do we anticipate victory over insurgency as the best exit strategy at the moment?
I don't even think we should be looking at that. Having been in Iraq over the 3.5 years, things have changed a lot. Please remember, in the beginning, I was very much for this war, and up till today, I believe, had we done it right, we would have won the war. When I say we would have won, a lot of people say, well, we still haven't lost. The problem is we have lost in the form of the result that we wanted in Iraq. Today, I do not want us to pull out totally, but I do want to leave the military in place and pull out all the civilians. I feel very strongly that what cost us in Iraq was the corruption, the ineptitude and the uselessness of the civilians in Baghdad who were talking down to the soldiers and Marines in the field who, apart from whatever obvious atrocities and things might come up now and then, the soldiers and the Marines in the field really did try to do the right thing with the local population and win hearts and minds, but they were usually curtailed in their efforts by the civilians in Baghdad. The military can still provide a support role as far as security goes, because Iraq is very insecure at the moment, and the Iraqi government, even though it's not extremely US friendly, will need some form of security help, and we have to do our duty by them, but the civilians have to go.
You want to add or rate, Greg?
Well, I think there is a parallel, and Joe began to talk about it. In both cases, I think what we didn't understand about the situation is that nationalism was the most powerful force we were up against. And in Vietnam, in spite of the fact that I think we were probably right to try to keep the communists from trying to take the country over. And I remember lived in Cambodia, so I saw the result of what the communists did in that country. And it changed a good deal of my view of the whole situation. But the nationalist aspect of that war is what eventually drove us out of Vietnam. And I think that that is happening again in Iraq. Now, what I'm especially worried about, though, in Iraq is that the country is really not one country. It is really three countries. It's the Kurds and the Sunnis and the Shiites. And what we have done is we've opened the Pandora's box to what I would call, and I'm president of Genocide Watch, so I know of which I speak, I believe it is genocidal civil war. The Shiites are killing the Sunnis because they are Sunnis, and the Sunnis are killing the Shiites because they are Shiites. That is genocidal violence. And I'm very concerned that if we simply pull out now, you know, lock, stock, and barrel, we could be leaving them in a situation of genocide, full-scale genocide.
Partial withdrawal of troops, Fred, has its dangers now under the circumstances?
It's always dangerous. There's always a critical time when you're withdrawing from a situation. To announce preemptively or well in advance a given date to withdraw, a fixed timetable, is absolutely absurd. It doesn't sustain any